Okay, I have a Shark Ion 850. We absolutely love this vacuum, but now you can hear there's a grinding and clicking going on. The clicking might just be something stuck, but when it's on the rug, it's definitely more of a grinding, like the gear is slipping. So you guys know I love my fix it yourself videos, so let's see if I can fix this vacuum. What, you're gonna help me fix the vacuum? You're gonna help me fix the vacuum? So that's mostly your hair in there, Lacey. So if you don't have one of these vacuums, they are fantastic. I absolutely love them. But this one is grinding, so I need to fix it. What do you think about that? Huh? Should I fix that for you? Keep the house clean? Can you speak to me? Meow? Meow? Well, now how am I going to clean the vacuum if you're going to jump on my lap? Lacey. Alright, so the tray is out. This is what you empty. But these vacuums are great because there's all kinds of things that you can take apart to clean. So, you know, it comes off really easy. Even this part comes out really easy. It's definitely full of hair very quickly. But there's more to it. There's something is grinding. So, you know what? I wonder if I can put this together without this in it and see. Let me see if that works. I'll start there. Alright, so I took the main brush that spins underneath out. And you can see it's vacuuming, but really quiet. But that helps me know that it's really the main brush, or the gear to the main brush, that is not working. So I will check that gear if I can get to it. Alright, one of the things that I really like about this, again, is how many things you can take apart. I mean, you can pull the brushes right off, clean underneath them. Pretty much all the basics can come off. Now, this is the wheel that the sound's coming from, and nothing moves on this part, but I noticed that this spins, which is surprising to me. So I'm going to see if I can pull that cap off and see something. So I don't know if that's the problem, but on the cap there, it's definitely full of hair and stuff in there. Sorry, this is a little gross, sorry. But I'm going to clean that off. I doubt that would be it, but you never know. I'll give it a try. Alright, I did take that end piece off and clean that the best I could. Clean this the best I could. I'm going to put it back and see if that is. I would highly doubt it, but let's test that first. Now, before I put that back and test it, I can tell you that I can turn this extremely easy with my finger now, where I could barely turn that because of all the hair. So I am closer to thinking that might actually have been the issue. So we'll put it in and see. All right, here goes. Well, that sounds better. All right, I hear there's still a little bit, but it definitely sounds better. Nope, there it goes. It's still doing what it was. So that might have helped a little bit. Maybe took a little pressure off that gear, but it definitely was still, especially when it's on the rug, making much more of that grinding sound. So it sounds like it's certainly a lot better than it was, but any kind of pressure seems to have affected it. So what do you think? Is it going to get out of that spot? There you go. Amazing. Yep, it's still got that sound, so that tells me it's something more internal with the gear. Alright, so I have it back apart, the basics apart. I'm going to start with this side, because this is the side that the motor spins. So, it looks like it's not, I don't know, some kind of funny screw ends. It's not a Phillips, but I've got my handy dandy tools of every kind of end. But I'm going to pull those off and see if this section comes off and see if there's something in there. Alright, I just got all the screws out of there. Let's see if this, oh, this does come out okay. Alright, well that seems like a standalone unit. If anything, I would think this motor that's turning that, and it feels like it's a little grindy. I think that would be what needs to be checked out. So I don't know if I can get to that. This looks completely separate, and that all that just runs that wheel, so I think that's okay. Alright, I just loosened the battery compartment, took that off, so I'm going to take the battery out. And mainly I figured there's going to be a screw, which there is, so I've got to take that off, so I'm going to take that. This one, I think I need to loosen this top case. So hopefully if that's loose enough, then I can pull this motor out. Because I want to see, feels like there's some grinding. I don't know. You wouldn't think it, but if some hair got wrapped around in that motor, I guess that's a possibility. So that's what I'm going to try. Okay. Of course I've gotten deeper than I expected, but I mean, this just plugs right into the side wheels. This one plugged into that side wheel. The battery just clogged. I mean, it's actually pretty amazing. All the screws are the same size. I don't have to worry about mixing them up. Again, my goal is to separate the base probably from the top, figure out how this is locked in. I could probably, I'm going way further than I need to, but I guess we will find out. So I'm still trying to get this motor out, and somehow it's going to go one way or the other, I think, just because this edge is smaller. So I will keep trying. All right, there's a good chance this may not work again, but I'm into it now. So I have certainly taken all kinds of things apart at this point. There are some deep screws in here, so if you don't have one of these handy dandy tool kits, you're going to struggle. I think that's about a T10, a Torex. It's real small. Again, I've got that kit, but there's some really deep ones. And if it wasn't for this extension that I was able to put on, I can't do it very well with one-handed. These are nice because they're all magnetized. But anyways, the extension with that, I was able to get into these real deep ones. But I still can't get it separated. So that surprises me. So I just finished unscrewing. These are the first ones that are a different size screw. These little ones. So I'm going to try to pull the front part just in case there's a couple screws hidden under here that's holding this base onto the top. Okay, that actually came apart pretty easy. You take the bottom off, and then you just lift the whole unit, and then this part came off. A minute ago I had taken off the front shell, which just kind of slid off. So far everything is kind of come apart pretty easy. I still can't separate the top and the bottom yet, but I'm just looking if there's some hidden screws. If not, there's some tabs here, and it's very possible those tabs are what's holding it together. All right, turns out I was just overthinking it. I just really need to pull it apart. So I put a little force on it. I started doing that, so I will continue to just pull that apart. There's my wife catching me tearing things apart again. So I just pulled the top off. All right. Sorry, my phone died, so you did not see all I had to do. But this wire goes underneath there. The motor was in here. I'll show you pretty much how to take it apart when I put it back together. But my goal was to get this motor out. Not that you can tell, but this is when I turn that. That's where I kind of feel like gears grinding. So I'm going to see if I can take this apart and see. I obviously don't have another motor, but, you know, in there, it also seems like there's a loose part. When you turn that, so it might be a bad, see that looks like a washer. Should not be doing that. So this motor itself might be bad. Probably a pretty inexpensive thing to actually buy and change, which I might do. But I'm going to take this off and look at the gears and see if something's caught up in the gears first. Okay, so I took that apart, and as I suspected, it is absolutely full of hair. And this part is also full of hair. And that might just be enough to cause the grinding. There's a little belt. Somehow I got to get that back on there. But it doesn't look like the belt is broken or stripped. So it's possible if I get that all cleaned up that may solve it. So let's see if that works. So I did take that apart. And I can honestly say that as I turn this, you know, it doesn't turn easy. It does feel like there's kind of a, not a grind, but you know, a stepping to it. So I suspect that ultimately this motor is probably bad. I'm going to take a part number off of it. If they're cheap, it's probably something eventually I will change. I will probably just run this until it dies. But then I think this motor would be what I would change, which probably is very inexpensive. So I am putting this back together, and I am just wondering, there seems to be a lot of slop when this is turned. And I couldn't imagine that stretching, but I guess it's possible. You can also see kind of how it skips. Man, it's almost as if this belt actually can stretch, which would really surprise me, but I guess it's possible. So I could see how if this belt stretched, that would, you know, cause it to skip on that motor teeth. And that's very possible. So maybe there's a belt replacement. I was thinking there might be a pulley or something that holds that away, but I don't see that. But I have a suspicion that that slop might be part of the problem for the sound. Okay, that is back together. I still think this motor is probably what's bad. I'm probably just going to run it until it dies, but it is probably the motor or that belt that seems to have too much slop to it. So that is a possibility. So when the motor gets tied up on the rug, you know, that maybe the sound we're hearing is that belt skipping those teeth. It does not do it when this is not in. So I know it's this mechanism, and it does not do it on wood floors. So when this has resistance, it is causing that sound. And I think that belt, I would probably start with the belt. I did take a picture of the model number, but I think that belt is stretched or something. Seems pretty odd to me. So I'm going to put this back together. These wires go underneath here. I did take the screws out of here. What's interesting is when you do put this back in, this square part has to be aligned. I don't know if you can see it down there, but to that square part here so that it can slip in there. But I had to get to this side to be able to do this. And I'm telling you, I'm so impressed by this. I mean, look at how much wiring there is. And part of that is this is just full of sensors all the way around. You know, from cliff sensors to sensors if it's running into something. You know, wow, look at that computer chip. I mean, this probably would have cost $10,000 to create, you know, 15, 20 years ago. So pretty amazing, the electronics. And man, you can pick these up for like 80 bucks on eBay now. So pretty impressive design here. So I'm going to put this back in, put this back on, you know, on the screws, and then I'll check in again. So I don't know if you can see that, but again, this part's got to be squared off. I struggled with that to get that whole motor out. I did not notice that, and it was at an angle and would not pull out. So if you square it off, then that will slip right in. Okay, I got the motor slipped back down in there. You can see that. And then this I didn't take all the way out, but there's just a couple screws holding this in. Just want to get the base down there because that's where the vacuum suction comes from. Get some of those screws back in, get these wires back. They're all, you know, put away so that they stay out of the way. So I just got to get all that back together. All right, the motor's back in. All these wires have little clips and spaces that they're supposed to go. So underneath, you know, so it really has places for everything. That motor, those, if you follow the wires, it just clips on right there. So, you know, if it's a replaceable part, that's pretty easy. So in the end, I don't know that I fixed anything by cleaning it, but it's either that motor or the belt. So if they're a replaceable part, once it dies, I'll probably replace it, or if it gets too annoying with the sound. Other than that, you know, I'll probably pick up maybe a dead one on eBay, even less expensive for parts, and just change that out. But I would say it, you know, I spent over an hour probably or more taking it apart, but I could easily probably have the thing apart in 10 minutes at this point, going through it once. So I would not be afraid to do that at all, or recommend it. So note, I started by trying to take these little clips off that would separate the top from this. You don't have to do that, so I'm glad I did not go through that whole process. So literally, I'm just flipping this over, and I'm gonna really put that in place and then just really snap it together. That's one of the things that I had done, is it wasn't coming apart, so I finally just put a little force on it to snap it back in place, and that worked perfectly fine. Didn't seem to be a problem. So I'm gonna line everything up and just snap that back down. So I have to admit, I mean, as long as I lined everything up, I did have to try a few times, but once everything was lined up, I mean, look at how easy that pops down. So now I just need to snap it in place. I'm just going to double check it again. But once that's there, looks like there's a couple snaps that kind of hold it in place. But once I'm happy that everything is lined up, I'm just going to snap these together, which everything should be good. Okay, I have snapped it together, and I feel very good about the placement of everything. All these things move easy, so I just want to make it. So honestly, if anything, it was really just these two tabs, this one here and the one on the other side, that when I pulled it apart, you know, from back here, those were the ones that were probably really holding it engaged. So now I just need to put this base on, and then once I put the base on, this top piece screws on it. That's what's going to hold this together. So for the base, there's really nothing complicated to it. You really just line it up and set it right in. It's kind of spring loaded. I made sure everything moved fine, but it was that easy. And then this piece is going to go on with these little screws. And that's what'll hold this part on. Right, so again, that lines up pretty easy. Just going to put those screws in, and then this just popped off from this one corner that just kind of covers the very front here. That didn't even need to come off. So in the future, no need to even take that off. Okay, that just snapped right on. Now I'll tell you, without having some kind of kit like this, I have no idea. This was probably something I got as a Christmas gift or online or who knows what, but I've had it for years. But without having this, with all these different thoraxes and really extensions, because there's some deep holes here, I don't know that you'd be able to do this. So before you tackle it, go get one of these $10 kits and make sure that it's got one of these extensions on it, because this has to be able to fit in the hole, and most things aren't unless you have long. Most kits like this do not have the extension, so make sure you get that. So I'm just going to put these screws on, and then I'm just going to, all these are the same, so I'm just going to go around and put all those in and hope that I don't have too many extras. Alright, don't get ahead of yourself like I did. You can see I replaced these screws already, but I really needed to put this on first so that the screw would go there instead of the top. So take your time. I got to take a bunch of those out, put the wheels back in, and then finish off. Did the same thing here. That one I should not have put on yet until I put this other wheel back in. Alright, I have all the screws back in. I mean, the rest is just so easy. These just pop right in place. You can pull them off all the time to clean them. So those pop off. I took the wheel here. I didn't know if I had to take these screws out or not. Did not need to take those out, but I popped this wheel out, which can also get hair all over it. So you can take that out, and that's just snaps in place. And that's it. I mean, I've got the battery I need to put back in. So it just plugs in there. Try to do it with one hand. Put the battery compartment. You know, this just slips right in this side, and then that should slide down. All right, and this part just pops right in. So I need to clean that, but it gets dirty so fast I don't think it matters. And then we'll give it a try. I don't think I fixed anything, but at least I know what it probably is, and certainly have taken it apart so people that have issues can take theirs apart if this video helps. If somebody's taken it apart and could tell me whether they think it's the motor or the belt that's stretched, and somebody's gone through that and fixed that, that would be great. And or if somebody can tell me where to get parts, you know. If there's a place, probably just eBay, I guess. I'll put the part number in, but, you know, it is at this point either that belt or the motor that is making the noise. All right, here we are. It is all back together. Again, I don't think I fixed anything. Turned it on, put the battery on. Well, that sounds good there. I can hear it a little bit. Here, I think that gear, I think that belt is slipping on the gear maybe. Certainly way quieter than it was so far, but let's see if that lasts. It's really on the rug that it showed the most. Well, I can hear it a little bit, but it's certainly much quieter than it was. I have no idea what I could attribute that to. I guess if we're going to call this okay, I guess maybe I would say that belt had slipped out of place, but I'm not confident that it will last. But boy, I could live with that if it stays that quiet. And at least we know how to take it apart. So it had something to do with that motor or belt, and if it stays this quiet, I will be ecstatic. Well, that sounds pretty good. So I don't know, I can't 100% say that's what it was, but certainly much quieter. We'll see how long that lasts. Well, if you stayed to the end, I appreciate it. Certainly love my do-it-yourself projects. Hashtag do-it-yourself satisfaction. And I'm sure I'll have more projects soon.